So in this video, I'll be taking you through the letter that the parents of Lucy Letby sent to the hospital after they became aware that their daughter was being accused of multiple counts of murder. First, I'm going to take you through Lucy Letby's own grievance letter, which she sent to the hospital following her removal from the neonatal unit. The following is the full statement from Lucy Letby relating to her removal from the neonatal unit in July 2016. This statement is dated the 9th of the 1st, 2017. My life was turned upside down and subsequently put on hold when I was unexpectedly informed in July 2016 that I was being redeployed from the unit following a period of annual leave. I have not entered the unit since. There has been a huge element of dishonesty throughout this process, and I want to ensure that you all hear my perspective and are aware of the impact your actions have had on me. I appreciate that we all have a right to raise concerns and that the protection of our vulnerable patient group is of course of paramount importance. However, I find it extremely unprofessional and hurtful to have been made aware of such unsubstantiated insensitive comments as listed below, often via word of mouth. Some of these were voiced in public areas or meetings. It was only through the submission of my grievance that all of these comments were confirmed. It was suggested by some of the paediatric consultants that the link, my presence on the unit and the increased mortality rates was due to a knowingly deliberate action by Lucy Letby. It has been noted that consultants were not prepared to have me on the unit and that as a team you continue to apply pressure to have me removed. If I were not removed, the police would be called. Consultants were uncomfortable that I would be on the unit and wanted me suspended. Members of your team have been heard to publicly make comments such as angel of death, murderer on the unit, cold and calculated. A member of the consultant team, when asked how they would feel if I were to take my own life, or if something were to happen to my elderly parents as a result, has been documented as replying, "I do not care." No individual, and certainly no parent, should have to hear something as distressing as this. As concluded by my grievance report, which states, quote, "It is clearly evident from the witness statements that your movement from the unit was orchestrated by consultants with no hard evidence to support this action. I was also disappointed to have discovered within my grievance that analysis tables relating to the mortality rates had columns amended by your team, with information relating to the involvement of medical staff being removed. Due to my professionalism, dedication, commitment, work ethic, I have exceeded expectations in my new role and remained in work, despite time off being suggested by numerous people on many occasions. The reason for remaining in work being that I am completely innocent of all verbal allegations made against me, which has been confirmed within my grievance report. In some ways, time off may have been easier than having to constantly walk past the women and children's building knowing that I could not enter for fear of seeing any of you or bumping into colleagues and having to lie. The isolation from friends and colleagues since July has been huge, and I am yet to see if it has any lasting impact on my team relationships. The unit is a small, close-knit team, with some members also being friends. Having to limit contact with them and be under the pretense of a voluntary secondment has resulted in my support network being extremely restricted. The secrecy of this situation has been, in my opinion, to protect you more than it has to benefit me. I have never had anything to hide. I therefore wish to be as open and honest as possible with my colleagues pending my return, and I will be releasing a statement. I feel they have the right to know the truth behind my secondment and restricted contact, which is very out of character for me. I hope this will also enable relationships to be rebuilt and for me to be supported in my return to the team. After working with you all in a professional and supportive manner during difficult and challenging times, I have been hurt and disappointed that those of you who did not openly raise concerns felt unable to be more supportive of me in this situation." Basically, she's got no support then. That's what I read that as. "The detrimental effect this has had on me, my family, and potentially my future is immense. Many months of worry, distress, secrecy and uncertainty has had a significant impact on my physical health, general well-being and self-confidence. I am not the person I was before this began. It is now only that there is some light at the end of the tunnel that I feel as though I can start to try to become the person I was before. A lot of people would leave, move on, have a fresh start. And I know that that is the feeling which has been conveyed to me by some of you. Quote, the longer she is away from the unit, the more likely she'll be to leave. However, I am very passionate and dedicated to Chester. It is where I undertook my nursing training, and the unit helped me grow from a student to a newly qualified nurse and beyond. Although this has been very traumatic, my strong desire to remain with Chester and within the COCH remains, and I am hopeful that we can find a professional way forward to enable my return to where I feel I belong. Statement from John and Susan Letby, parents of Lucy Letby. At the time when all this started, in July, on Lucy's return from annual leave, we were quite concerned and upset that she didn't contact us immediately about what was going on, which is totally out of character for her. Only by chance we found out that she had contacted the Royal College of Nursing, and we wondered if she had done the right thing. It transpired that she hadn't told us as she didn't want us to be upset, and was trying to deal with the situation herself. However, the involvement of the RCN turned out to be the best thing that could have happened. A letter was sent to the Trust from Tony Millier, area representative for RCN in July, asking for clarity about Lucy's situation. A reply was never received, which led to Lucy reluctantly putting in a grievance, as it was the only way she was likely to get any answers. Whilst it slowly came to light that certain consultants had made comments about her professionally, when we read the grievance report, to say we were shocked to the core is the understatement of the century. As parents, the sickening allegations made against our daughter became a game changer. Annette Weatherly, chair of the grievance procedure, in her summary, has found the behaviours of 4 consultants to, quote, fall far short of what is expected by the trust and professional standards, and, quote, is unacceptable and could be viewed as victimisation. Our daughter has been to hell and back since July. Can you imagine what it is like to know that colleagues are calling you a murderer? She has frequently said to us during the last 6 months, I wouldn't hurt anything, let alone a tiny baby. It has broken our hearts, especially as we live 100 miles away, and we are so proud of how Lucy has conducted herself and endured this nightmare. I have often said to Lucy, how do you keep going? And she quite simply says, because I haven't done anything wrong. Everything has been made worse as she's had to keep the reason for her secondment a secret from colleagues who are also friends and a support network with having no family nearby. She has worked hard at her seconded workplace and done everything asked of her by the trust. We fear for her health as she has lost weight every time we see her, and we can see she is suffering inside. We have yet to see if she will suffer any long-term psychological damage. It would have been easy for her to throw in the towel and return to redacted, where she would have been welcomed with open arms. However, despite all the wrongdoing against her, her only wish has always been to be reinstated on the neonatal unit in the job that she loves. Such is her commitment to working at the Countess that earlier this year she bought a house close to the hospital. Obviously, had we known of these allegations back in 2015, we would never have committed to this purchase, which has left her with a huge financial penalty if she were to sell up. When any organisation is in trouble, it is the person at the top who is taken to task, not the person at the bottom. In this case, a young, relatively inexperienced Band 5 nurse at the start of her career. It does not make sense that Lucy was put in charge of the sickest babies if there were concerns about her dating back to last year. We believe that certain consultants have a personal grudge against Lucy, and we are at a loss as to understanding why. The overlying question that has kept us awake from the day this all started and no one has come up with an answer is, why Lucy? John and Susan Letby. Okay, let's cut in here and share some of my own thoughts. Now, hopefully, I'm not going to sound too insensitive when I say the following, but to me it just seems a little bit weird, like the dynamics a little bit off. I don't know, it just seems a little bit strange that the parents have somehow muscled their way into a workplace grievance. It's almost like you read that email or letter and it's like Lucy's first attention or Lucy's been expelled from school. Lucy's a good girl, really. She does the dishes around the house. She hoovers up on a Saturday morning. She's a good girl, really. I don't know, it just seems a little bit off that the parents have somehow put themselves front and centre in a workplace grievance. You've got the father attending meetings. You've got the mum calling up the union rep. And it's interesting, isn't it, that Lucy didn't tell her parents about what was happening. Bearing in mind, Lucy was someone who, by all accounts, spoke to her mum nearly every day. And yet this massive monumental situation that Lucy's going through, she doesn't want her parents involved, interestingly. Now, why is that? Do you truly believe it's because, she didn't want to upset her parents, or was it because she didn't want them to know what she had done? I don't know. But to me, it just doesn't sit right that the parents have somehow involved themselves, put themselves front and centre in a workplace grievance. And again, in this email, bearing in mind here, we're talking about the hospital looking into a series of deaths, a series of fatalities of neonatal babies. And yet this email starts going on about the mortgage payments. Oh, we can't afford the house. We wouldn't have bought the house if we'd known this was going to happen. It just shows a complete lack of empathy concerning the situation they're supposedly trying to address. A complete lack of self-awareness. It's all about me. It's all about us. It's all about poor Lucy. Lucy tells us everything. But she didn't talk to us about this. We want to get involved. We want to know what's going on. We want to know what's happening. I mean, even her mum ringing up the union rep without Lucy's knowledge. It's so overbearing. That's the way it comes across to me. Bearing in mind, I'm an only child. Lucy was an only child. It comes across as very overbearing. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know where you're going, who you're seeing, who you're speaking to. All that sort of stuff. That's the impression that I get. And I just wonder, is this a snapshot of Lucy Letby's upbringing? Is it? I don't know. I mean, when we first heard that the father was attending these meetings, to me, I got the impression that this was just sort of, an extra support, a bit of extra ammunition for Lucy to take into these meetings with her. But it would appear that Lucy didn't want her parents involved. Lucy didn't want her parents to know about what was taking place. But they've managed somehow to involve themselves. I mean, let's just bring this up for 2 seconds. Just pick out a couple of key points. As parents, the sickening allegations made against our daughter became a game changer. Then they talk about buying the house, the mortgage penalties. It would have been easy for her to throw in the towel and return to redacted, wherever that is, where she would have been welcomed with open arms. However, despite all the wrongdoing against her, her only wish has always been to be reinstated on the neonatal unit in the job that she loves. Such is her commitment to working at the Countess of Chester that earlier this year she bought a house close to the hospital. Obviously, had we known of these allegations back in 2015, we would never have committed to this purchase, which has left her with a huge financial penalty if she were to sell up. She then talks about, or they then talk about, I should say, they then talk about Lucy being isolated. She's 100 miles away. Well, if you were that concerned, if it was that much of an issue, Lucy could have moved back in with you at that point, couldn't she? But she didn't. She wanted to stay in Chester. She could have moved back to the parental home in Hereford, but she didn't. She stayed in Chester and she took the job in the patient safety department. Anyway, do let me know some of your own thoughts down in the comments section below. As always, if you found this video helpful or informative, please don't forget to hit the like button before you leave. And as always, many thanks for joining me for this particular video. I look forward to seeing you all again for the next one. Take care. Cheers.